everyone, welcome back to our new series where we play new games or learn new skills or have fun doing whatever we're doing. Today we are going to learn how to play another card game. I know the last 2 weeks we were learning how to play crib, but I think it's really good for us to learn how to play card games because they're good for our math skills and our technical skills, strategy skills. They're just well-rounded and they've been around for centuries, and that's really cool to be able to play card games that were being played years and years and years ago. So today we are learning how to play Rummy. Rummy is a card game where you try to get runs of the same suit. So 4, 5, 6 would be all hearts, so you could have that, or you can have 3 of a kind or 4 of a kind, and the point is to get them down either right away so that you can go out quicker, so that if you're stuck with cards in your hand after your opponent gets rid of all their cards, then they have to count the cards in their hand against them. But if you get out all of your cards first, you get to count all the points that you've laid down on the table. So the point is to try to form sets and sequences of cards. Apparently, it is still one of the best known card games in the United States. It has many different versions. You might have heard of Gin or Gin Rummy, or there's called Rummy 500 or Indian Rummy, Oklahoma Gin. Like, there are so many different ways how to play it, and just with like little tweaks to the rules. I'm going to try to be as general as possible. A lot of people have house rules as well, so they're like, the way I know it may have some house rules in it because I grew up learning it from my grandparents, but hopefully it'll give you an idea how to play, and then maybe you'll make some house rules once you get the hang of it. So clearly I'm not very good at shuffling. So the dealer, which is going to be me at the moment, would deal to the left first and then around. And if you're playing with 2 people, you're going to get 10 cards. If you're playing with more than 3 or if you're playing with 3 to 4, you'll get 7. And then if you're playing with more than that, you would get 6 cards. Typically you wouldn't go over 6 people playing because then there wouldn't be a lot in the discard pile. And it would be hard to add another deck because the runs would just be crazy and there would be so many 3 of a kinds and 4 of a kinds. You could try it if you want, but it would make it a bit difficult. I would suggest playing with 1 deck when you start. So the object of the game, like I said before, is try to make sequences of the same suit or sets of 3 or 4. So to begin, each player, so let's just say there's 2 of us, so I would deal out 10 cards to both of us, and the player who didn't deal would go first. So we'll just put those cards away for now and we'll just be playing my hand. So to start off, you would have a card up, and I can either pick from like the card, when flip up this card, the discard pile, I can either pick up from this or I can pick up from this. However, in some games you can only pick up the top card. I think in Rummy 500 your discard pile would look like this, where you could see all of the cards, and then if you need a card that's in the middle because you switched up your hand or you got a card that went with another but you forgot about it earlier, then you can pick up to it. So if I wanted this 8, I'd have to pick up the ace and the 10 with it and put them in my hand as well, which could be an advantage if you want more cards and you want more points in your hand. However, it might take you longer to get rid of all those cards, and you might get stuck with them in your hand and then lose the game because you couldn't get rid of all of them. So in my hand right now, I have a lot of cards. I have a run of 6, 5, and 4 of spades. I also have 3 5s, which connects to the 6, 5, and 4. However, you can't play both of those things. You can't lay down the 2 5s and then the 6, 5, and 4 beside it and count it as 2 different things. They have to be separate entities. However, what I can do is pair the 5 with something else. So I have a 6 of hearts and I have a 5 of hearts, so I could pair those together. Or I could wait for the 4th 5 to come up. However, that might not happen. It's better to play runs when you go down because you'll have more of a chance to keep playing onto them. So once you have something down, so if, say I played the 6, 5, and 4, if I pick up the 3 of spades, I can lay that down on top of it. However, if my opponent also gets this 3 of spades, they can lay it down on their side, and it's called a laying off. So you're laying off the other opponent's, and that counts as their card and points towards their hand. But it's my melds or combo or sequence. That's just one aspect of the game. So the point is to go down with all of your cards. So say these are 5 5s, and then I have like queen, jack, and 10 of all the same suit. They're not, but whatever, for the example. And then you have to throw out your last card to be able to go out fully. That's can be a house rule. Some people play where you just have to get rid of all your cards and it doesn't matter how you do it. But in the version I play, and in many other different card games, you usually have to throw out a card because you usually picked up one in the beginning. So you would pick up one, throw out one, lay down your cards. So then whatever my opponent has in their hand, they would count, and we'll go over what cards mean what and what variations you can do with that as well. And then they would count the cards in their hand and minus the cards in their hand from the cards that they had down. If they didn't have any down, they would go into the negative. Also, the reason why it's called Rummy is you can choose to keep all of your sequences and combos in your hand, and if you go down with them all at once and say Rummy, then all of the cards in your opponent's hand are now doubled against them. And so that's the point of keeping them in your hand. Obviously, that's a bit risky because you may not get your cards, and then you have to count everything against you if your opponent goes out. However, if you see that your opponent is getting low, you can choose to lay some of those down instead of going for the full Rummy, therefore offsetting what will be left in your hand if your opponent does go out. So that is the basics of the play. To count your cards, again, I said there were some variations. In general Rummy, each card would count for what their value is. So an ace would be 1, a 3 would be 3, 8 would be 8, 7, 7, and so on until you get to 10. And then 10, jack, queen, and king are all worth 10 points, not worth 10, 11, 12, and 13 respectively. So when you're counting, it can be like, that's what's important about playing cards, is it teaches you mental math. Again, you could get a calculator, but it's good to like try to develop those skills, and you will get better at it, trust me, I have. And then you would count them up and subtract them and recording that on a sheet of paper. Some people play until 9 or 100 points, some people play until more than that. It depends on how you're playing, it's up to you. Another way of counting that could be helpful for some younger people or for some people who aren't really good at mental math is to count all of the cards that are worth their value as 5 points each. So that would be like ace to 9. They would all be the same points as 5, and then face cards would be more at 10. That's up to you on what you want to do. It does make it a little easier. Some card games play like that. If you know how to play spades, that's how they do it. Most Rummy games, they don't do it, but again, as an easier way to do it, if you're not great at adding up different amounts, you can just do it by 5s, and 5s are obviously a little bit easier to count. So that's the objective of the game. Like I said, there are so many different variations. I encourage you to look them up. They are quite fun, and it's super fun to play with a lot of people. So I encourage you to learn maybe the way I just said to play. If that wasn't straightforward enough, maybe you can learn a different way. Sometimes different versions have a bit more easier rules. so they might be easier to understand. However, again, this one is just making sequences of the same suit, and then making triples or quadruples or whatever you want to call them, sets of 3 or sets of 4, and then laying them down and then counting them when someone goes out. I hope that you have fun playing, and if you have anything else you want to learn, or if you have any questions about what we just learned, please let me know, and I will do my best to answer your questions in the next video or learn what you wanted to learn in the next video as well. Thanks for listening.